High School Media Center at 6:50 p.m. If I can get started first with a roll call, please.
Mrs. Klingler?
Here.
Miss Lee?
Here.
Mr. Francisco?
Here.
Mrs. Larson?
Here.
Mr. Jewett?
Here.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Here.
Mr. DeVero?
Here.
All right, and I will turn it over for the tax levy presentation and hearing.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank the Board of Education for giving me this opportunity to speak tonight regarding our Truth and Taxation hearing and our 2025 levy year, which for those of you who are paying your tax bills, those are the tax bills that are actually paid in June and September of 2026. The other thing I would like to note is that tonight, as we're talking about property taxes and we're talking about house values and different things, we will only be discussing the portion of your tax bill as it relates to Round Lake School District. Round Lake School District represents roughly more than 60% of your tax bill, but when we're talking about increases and decreases and so forth, we're not talking about the tax bill as it relates to the other entities on your tax bill. We're not speaking tonight on behalf of the fire department or the library. We're strictly speaking about your property taxes as they relate to Round Lake School District. So first, I'd like to talk about the levy and what our levy actually is. The levy is a formal request by the school district. It must be sent to the county clerk no later than the last Tuesday of December, and basically it determines the total amount of money that the district is authorized to raise property taxes. When we take a look at the property tax levy, what's the purpose of a property tax levy? Well, the purpose is for us to be able to access funding that is required for us to be able to maintain our current programming, as well as what it takes to enhance the programs within the district. If you look at our property tax levy, it represents about 27% of our overall revenue that we take in for the district. In terms of dollars, that means that it represents over $38 million of the district's total revenue. The only funding source that is larger than the tax levy that's received by the district is evidence-based funding, and that comes from the state. Evidence-based funding represents over $81 million of the district's total revenue. So again, when we're taking a look at the tax levy, it is a very large portion of our revenue, and it is essential for us to be able to function. Tonight, we're going to be talking or using several terms that I wanted to take a minute to go through and just highlight. So if we're talking about aggregate tax levy, if you hear me say aggregate tax levy, we're talking about the portions of the tax levy that are on your tax bill that relate to everything except for our debt service portion of our levy. In other words, that's basically everything that it takes to operate the district, to pay our teachers, to run our buses, those types of things. Now, in terms of our debt service levy is the amount of money that we're levying to pay our debt or our bond payments. If you think about that in personal terms, it's kind of like your mortgage payments. So it's the amount of money that we are levying that goes towards principal and interest towards debt that the district has. Why do we delineate between the two? Why do we differentiate between aggregate tax levy and the debt service levy? Well, that's because the debt service levy is based on our bond payments. So every year it stays pretty well flat from year to year unless you're adding a debt or a debt is falling off the tax rolls. That's when it would materially change. That is not governed by the next term that we're going to talk about, which is the Property Tax Extension Limitation Law, or it's otherwise known as PTEL. The aggregate tax levy is governed by PTEL, which is the law that determines how much the district can raise that levy from year to year. And the next term that we're going to talk about is Consumer Price Index. PTEL, or the Property Tax Extension Limitation Law, authorizes the district to raise taxes each year by a small inflation factor called Consumer Price Index. So what is the process as it relates to the levy? First, the district is required to present to the board an estimate of what we anticipate the levy request to be. That has to be given to the board approximately 20 days before the final levy is adopted. That was presented to the Board of Education at the October Board of Education meeting, as well as at the Finance Committee meeting on October 20th. Tonight, we're holding what's called the Truth in Taxation hearing. The law says that basically, if the district is requesting 5% or more, a 5% or more increase from its prior year extension, it's required to hold a truth in taxation hearing. The important thing to note here is that the district is not requesting 5%. We're actually requesting less than that, but we are still holding this truth in taxation hearing in an effort to maintain transparency and accountability with our taxpayers. This is something the district is doing this year, but has also done in the past. So again, even though not required by law, we're still holding this truth in taxation hearing tonight. The next part of the process is for the board then at tonight's meeting to approve the levy. And once it's approved and adopted by the Board of Education, it is required to be filed with the county clerk no later than the last Tuesday in December. There are several components that make up the levy calculation from year to year. There are rate limits, so there are specific limits that are set by state statute that says we cannot levy over a certain rate in various funds. There are also minimum rates that we are required to levy, otherwise we lose revenue sources from the state. The levy calculation also takes into account the prior year tax extension, and we talked about consumer price index. The last two items, the ones that are in yellow on the screen, are unknown to us until until the spring of 2026, and they actually make up a portion of our calculation. And that is new property, the value of new property in the district, as well as the value of EAV, or equalized assessed valuation, and that's the value of the homes. So again, as we're looking at the calculated, or how to calculate the levy, two of the major factors will be unknown to us until the spring, even though the law requires us to complete the paperwork and to file the levy right now. We're going to talk about the importance of that in a few slides, because those unknown pieces of information put the district in a situation where we actually request a little bit more than we anticipate we're going to receive. But we'll talk about that in a few slides. So what is Consumer Price Index? Consumer Price Index is basically if you were to take a basket of goods at one moment in time, and that basket of goods could contain things such as transportation, food, medical care. You could have the cost of bread in there. They take and they calculate the cost of those goods as of a moment in time, and then a year later calculate those same goods to see how much of an increase has happened in between that 1 year time span, and that's called inflation. It's determined by the Consumer Price Index, and it determines how much the levy can go up. What we've done here in this graph is we've provided 10 years of history of the consumer price indexes that have guided our overall levy increases from year to year to year. What you will notice is that in levy year 2022 and levy year 2023, you can see that those are maxed out at the 5%. The law states that we are allowed to increase our levy by either CPI or 5%, whichever is lower. CPI in those 2 years were actually above 7%, but the district was capped at only increasing its levy by 5%. So that's why you see those 2 years. Since the PTEL legislation was put into place, these are the only 2 years that it has ever been maxed out in terms of the cap that was given to the district. If we look at the very last column on that bar chart, the CPI that is calculated for our upcoming levy, the 2025 levy, is 2.9%. Also included within the district's tax levy is something called tax increment financing. Now, basically, tax increment financing is where the village will go and designate a certain area within the district's boundaries, and it will determine that that is now in a TIF district. Now, once they place that in a TIF district, that allows the city to then basically capture those tax dollars and reinvest those new property tax dollars in the neighborhood in order to improve and to elicit people to build up in that area. But what that does is that actually stops the district from being able to access those funds. It freezes the value of that property as of that moment in time, and it freezes that property for 23 years. The district does have two tax increment financing districts within its boundaries. One is set to expire October 2034. The other is set to expire in January 2044. So we won't be seeing the additional revenue from these two TIF districts for quite some time, but it's important that we realize and acknowledge that they are out there. So when we're taking a look at the Property Tax Extension Limitation Law, or PTEL, it's made up, it basically determines a rate. So again, it's limited to the increase of 5% or consumer price index, whichever is less. And it calculates the rate that is going to be applied to your property taxes. And that rate is applied through a calculation we're going to go through in a few slides. But first, let's look at actually how PTEL is calculated. PTEL is calculated basically if you have four pieces of information. You need to have your last year's tax levy, aggregate tax levy, which for the district was $31,780,000. You need the estimated equalized assessed valuation, or the estimated value of the houses within the district. Right now, the county is estimating them to be about $724 million in terms of their house values. You also need the new growth. So for example, if a new subdivision is put in place, that subdivision has never been taxed before. So they carved that subdivision out as new growth, and the district is allowed to extend property taxes to that area outside of the property tax extension limitation law. So if we're taking a look at how it's calculated, number one, we need to come up with the numerator. And the numerator says, or the law says, we get what we received last year plus consumer price index. So what you can see in that first line, step one numerator, is it's taking what we received last year and it's multiplying it by that 2.9% to say that the total amount of taxes that we can extend in levy year 2025 is about $32.7 million. Next, it divides it by the amount of property that is current property, not new growth. So what you see in this calculation in step two is it's taking the total value of all the houses, it's subtracting out the new growth to get, this is the value of our houses as they were carried forward from the prior year. So those are our existing home houses. You divide then the total amount that we are allowed to extend, which is that $32.7 million. You divide that by the house values, which are $723 million, to come up with a rate. And you can see that rate is 4.5220. That rate is then applied to the tax bills in terms of determining how much you will be paying on your taxes. The important thing to note is that with new property of $588,000, the total brand new revenue that's outside of the property tax extension limitation law, the district should bring in related to new property is about $26,000. So it's not a lot of money. If we were in a district that had large new growth, we would see a very larger impact to the district, but we should be receiving about $27,000 outside of the property tax extension limitation law. So when we look at this calculation, if you're taking the total amount of taxes that we can extend and you're dividing it by the house value, what happens if house values go up and what happens if house values go down? What we've done is provided a graph here that actually shows you over the last I believe it's about 15 years, what's happened to property tax values and what's happened to our rate as a result. So what you can see, and I'm going to try to use our little pointer here, which I'm pointing, but it doesn't show up on the TV. Okay, we can kind of see. Well, what you can see is that starting in that first year, which is actually 2011, we started to see declines in the house values. That's the bar graph that you're seeing. So you'll see that as house values were going down, the district was seeing those house values go down. The line graph up at the top shows you the rate that was being charged. Because just because house values doesn't go down or house values go up, that does not determine how much the district receives. As you may recall, I just said, the district by law will receive whatever it received last year plus an inflation increase. So what you can see here is there's an inverse relationship. If property tax values go down or house values go down, the rate goes up. So what you'll see in that final bar, which is our estimated bar for levy year 2025, because house values are estimated to go up about 12.4% in Round Lake Area School District, we're seeing that rate drop yet again. Now, when we talked about the levy, we talked about that there are a couple pieces of information that are still unknown. And because those pieces are still unknown and we're coming to the board tonight to ask for the levy to be finalized, what we do is we safeguard it just a little bit, which means we do something called balloon our levy just a little bit so that at the end, in the spring, when house values are known and new construction is known, we can account for and actually gather every single tax dollars that is allowable under the law. What would happen if we were not to do this? If we were to not balloon our levy by however much, if we were to not balloon the levy and then that new property tax growth were to come in significantly higher than what we're even estimating, we could actually leave revenue on the table. And that puts the district in a position where we would have to further look at our programs or other areas to cut if we're not able to gather every dollar that's available to us. So when we safeguard, again, we're safeguarding because there are going to be variances in the projected equalized assessed valuation versus what it finalizes. There are probably going to be variances between what is projected as new property and what ends up being finalized in the spring. And there are various other changes that can take place between now and the spring. So what we've done here is we've given an overview of the levy as a whole. Tonight, the board is being asked to adopt what is our ballooned extension. That is that center column. The first column that we're looking at, that's our 2024 levy. So that's our actual levy from this past levy year. What you see in the center is what we're asking for. This is basically that slightly higher than what we anticipate we're going to receive amount. And then what we have in that final column is what we actually anticipate we will receive in the spring. One thing I'd like to point out is that if you take a look at, there's some small arrows down at the bottom, and this PowerPoint is available on our website if you'd like to take a look at it, as well as an extensive document that we have put together that explains the levy in general. But what you can see is that we're requesting a 4.97% increase. We're requesting a 4.9% increase, but we only anticipate we will receive about 2.97%. So again, we're asking for a little bit more, but even though we're asking for it, the law will still limit us in the spring. We will not be able to recoup anything more than what we received last year plus CPI, if that makes sense. So what the district is asking for tonight, we are asking that the board adopt later. The next step will be for the board to actually approve the final proposed levy, and then we will follow that by filing it with the county clerk. What we've put into this slide is just an estimation of what would happen to an average home. We've listed two values for their homes. One is a $200,000 home, and one is a $300,000 home. I'm going to just select that first one, the $200,000 home. So that $200,000 home last year, if it received what on average we're being told house values are going up in Round Lake, that house would be worth almost $225,000 in this coming levy season. And that's again based on estimations from the county assessor's office. Now, you don't pay taxes on the full value of your home. You actually only pay taxes on a third of your home. So to do the calculation of how much property taxes would, or how to assess the property taxes, we take that value of the home and we divide it by 3. So if we look at 2024, that house would have had an assessed valuation of $66,000, almost $67,000, but coming into 2025 levy, because of that 12.4% increase, they're now almost at $75,000 of assessed valuation. Now from there, if you think about it like when you file your regular taxes, those taxes that you file at the end of December, before March 15th, no, April 15th, you have something called like a standard deduction. That's like what we have listed here. It's called the homestead exemption. If you are a senior, you would have a senior exemption. If you are a veteran, you would have a different exemption. So 9 times out of 10, the average taxpayer in our district is going to have the homestead exemption. That's $8,000. So what it does is it says if the value of your house is $75,000, we're going to take $8,000 off of that. So now we're going to tax you on $67,000. So when we're looking at the district's estimated costs from last year to this year, and the calculation is done here, we're looking at an overall increase to someone with a $200,000 home of about an additional $135 a year. So that is the estimated impact to a $200,000 home. If you're looking at a $300,000 home, that impact would be more like $181 a year. That's not per month. That's not per tax bill. That's per year. Now, by law, they have added some new information that's required to be provided during our tax levy hearing, and that one of those things is the cash reserve balance disclosure. A couple of the things that I'd like to point out is what we have quadrants here. So the first quadrant in the upper left is our FY24 AFR, or our annual financial report. What we have in the quadrant right next to that, to the right, in the upper right, is our FY25 unaudited information. We haven't finalized our annual financial report yet, which is why what we're presenting here is unaudited, but we're estimating that these figures should come in fairly close to what audited ends up being. And then what we have down in the lower left quadrant is information based on our FY26 budget. And then that final lower right quadrant takes and provides a 3-year average. The important information I'd like to point out is that due to the deficit in FY25, the district's cash reserves, just for its operating funds, went down 9%, and its fund balance went down 14%. But because of the measures that were taken to try to bring that deficit at least under control into FY26, what we're seeing in FY26 is we should see an additional drop of about 5% of our overall cash balance and about another 7% of our operating fund balance. The important thing that we are highlighting in this slide takes what we're proposing to the Board of Education for our levy, and it shows you very basic math. This is not a 5-year financial plan. This is just basic math to show you what would happen to our cash balances and our fund balances in each of the various funds based on the levy that we're presenting. The important thing that this shows is that even with the levy and all of the changes that we've made in the levy, we do not see any cash balances that would go negative, and we do not see any fund balances that would also go negative. So this is an important double check that what we're levying is something that is actually sustainable. One of the things I would like to point out are some of the changes that we've made in the levy in this coming year. If you take a look at this slide, which was just the overview of the levy, you can see that in the past we levied significant amounts in areas of transportation, in working cash, in the municipal retirement fund, in our social security fund, and various other funds. But this year, what we're doing is we're actually bringing down those levies to bare minimums, and we're using our fund balance in those areas so that we can then take the money that would have been levied in those areas and we're putting it directly into the education fund. And we're doing that to try to recoup and to rebuild our cash balances in our education fund and our fund balances in our education fund. But again, even with these significant changes in what's being levied, in that final slide that we were looking at, we do not see any of our fund balances going negative, which gives us the ability to levy the way we've projected. We have taken some time to actually really improve the district's website, and we highly recommend that if you would like to see this document that goes into great detail about the resolutions as well as the levy process as a whole, that is available on our website under the tax levy on the business office portion of our website. We also have a frequently asked questions section that we have added for those people who want to just have maybe some simple questions answered. Additionally, my contact information is available on the website as well if anyone has any questions they would like to ask. But at the conclusion of this part of the levy, we will be opening it up for public comment. Public comment is much like it is in the board meeting, where if you fill out one of the forms and you give it to our board secretary, she will call you up and you can speak. But tonight's portion, this portion would be as it relates to the tax levy. We have a separate public comment portion that's available during the Board of Education meeting if you have something else to discuss. But at this time, that concludes my presentation unless the board has any questions.
Nice job. Thank you very much. Is the levy information translated? I'm talking on the website.
Not at this time. This document is not. I do believe that if you switch on Google, the frequently asked questions section is translated if you switch to your primary language. But this document is not translated.
Are we still working on that though? Or were we not working on getting that translated? So yes, we are still working on getting it translated.
Additional questions from the board? Hearing none, we will move to public comment. As always, members of the public would participate in public comment during board meetings by attending in person or submitting electronic public comment form. Electronic public comment wasn't necessarily applicable for this one, so we'll go to local public comment, and we have public comment this evening.
Mercedes Alfaro.
Okay, everybody knows me. So my name is Mercedes Alfaro. I live in this community for 35 years. So there's a lot of information, but I don't know, especially I want to talk with about education. I don't know if you know how is my community right now. My community now, look, we are here. We are worried for our money. We are very sensitive. Now my community have many problems. We not believe. We don't want to pay more taxes. There are many families who are separate. There are many families who don't have work. So this decision affects a lot my community. And I worry for my community. Think about it. Because I love my community and I know how is it. So many persons can't pay more money. Think about it in your decision. Please, board education. You are our voice, and I talking tonight for my community.
Thank you. And that was all of the public comment for this evening. Oh, need a break.
That'll be the next thing I try to fix here is you guys work on this, right? My name is Ricky Colon, and I grew up here in Round Lake Beach. Kindergarten, high school, all that. 9 years ago, I was fortunate to buy a house here in Round Lake with my wife. There was a tragedy in Round Lake about a year and a half ago, and from that, we built a community. From that community, they asked me to be their voice and speak for them at board meetings. If you recognize the name Ricky Colon, is because I was on the ballot with a lot of you here. The one in April. I ran for Round Lake Beach trustee. I was the only one to run against the incumbents. I took 16% of the votes. Just to be short with it, 150 votes, I'd be at a board meeting right now. The community asked me to speak for them. This is not something that I pursued my life. They saw how I spoke to people, and they liked it. As you can see, a lot of the people, they're here, they don't want to speak to you. I'm going to say it for them. When I saw the video, the lady speaking here, I believe your name is T, I saw a corporate training video. Is what I saw, honestly. Sorry. 4.97. When I see a cap at 5 and I see a number like 4.97, I think you think that we're stupid, something like that. Like, I see a lot of vagueness in what she said. These people want to know where their money is going. I talk to people every day, and I just had a conversation with one the other day. She said she would pay this tax, whatever it is, if she knew that it was going towards a teacher salary, specifically just all teacher salary, right? I don't know if that's something that can happen, but I didn't see anything that would make me, or hear anything that would make me want to pay that today. I didn't even hear the other second thing that she said that was causing not to know anything. You said there are two things. One of them was the property value for the summer. I'm not sure if I didn't hear the other one. With that being said, it just really felt kind of tone deaf, and I would lean more into the community than take from them. If you want them to help with things, I'm sure there are lots of other ways to have them help you instead of them feel like it is taken from them. And I'll go back to the tone deaf video where it was like, everything else is raising, so we're going to raise this too. Yeah, everything else is raising. Really, I don't want this to raise too, in that aspect. A lot of what she said, what would happen if you had that stuff would not go negative. I didn't hear what would happen if you got the minimum.
Just as a reminder, we have a 3-minute limit. You're 15
All right,
seconds
I got
over,
1 second.
but I ask you just to wrap up. Thank you.
Okay. What I didn't hear was what would happen if you got the bare minimum that you were supposed to get. Would it then go negative? Again, I didn't hear that, so I'll leave it with that. Like, we just want more from you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board, I have some ideas I can share with you later about engaging the community on this technical. It's very technical information, and we definitely want to lean into the community. So I will talk to the team, and we'll figure out a plan to do that.
All right. Did we have any additional public comment on the levy? Hearing none, we will adjourn this special meeting at 7:25 p.m. Which regular meeting of the Round Lake Area Board of Education on November 17th, 2025 at 7:26 p.m. If I can get started first with a roll call, please.
Mrs. Klingler?
Here.
Miss Lee?
Here.
Mr. Francisco?
Here.
Mrs. Larson?
Here.
Mr. Jewett?
Here.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Here.
Mr. De Vera?
And first up is our Pledge of Allegiance. First, if I can get a motion to approve the meeting agenda as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Mr. De Vera?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yeah.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Motion carries, and that will start us with special recognition and presentations. And first up on that are our October Athletes of the Month, and that would be our athletic director, Mr. Karolzak.
Good evening, everyone. So, right off the bat, this is kind of a special Athlete of the Month for October, because not only do we have co-athletes of the month, but we have co-male athletes of the month and co-female athletes of the month. So that's the good news. We had a lot of really good performances in October. The not so good news is both of our co-female athletes of the month for October are currently playing in a basketball game at Elk Grove High School. So we will be recognizing them at the December meeting. But it's my pleasure and privilege to announce our co-male athletes of the month for October, who will be recognized by head cross-country coach Kevin Brady in just a moment. Those gentlemen are both sophomores, and they are Alex Castro Gomez and Danny Benuelos.
I'm getting old. I need my glasses now to read these things. So we have Danny Benuelos and then Alex Castro Gomez. They are sophomores on the cross country team. They've been great athletes this year, not only just for October, but for the entire season. They do well in school. They work really hard, and they have a lot of talent. So let's talk a little bit about their talent, which is why they won this award today. Because they're both sophomores, they were able to run the frost-off races this year for the most part when we went to invites at the beginning part of the season. Alex on my right, he placed either first, second, third, or fourth in all those invites. It was fantastic to see him run, and he kind of led the team as a sophomore this year at the beginning of the season. Danny's new to cross country this year. His lowest place was a 12th place finish at Wakanda. But other than that, he ran in the top 10 for all the invites. At the end of the season, they both ran in varsity. It was really kind of cool to see them progress. It was a big step up in competition. They were both all conference. Alex was 9th. Danny was 8th. They both ran in regionals. And they qualified out of the regionals to our sectional, which is a big, our regional's pretty tough. It's got some really strong competition. Lake Zurich is one of the teams that was in our regional. They eventually, I think, took second place at state. Very tough competition. They went to sectionals, and they both ran in the 15s. So Alex ran a 15:56, which is a average time of 5:18 for the mile, and then Danny ran 15:41, which is an average time of 5:13 for the miles. It's really amazing to see how well they progress and how hard they work over the course of the season. No matter what challenge you put in front of them, they're willing to go for it. It's really kind of cool to see how well they've done because I've been the head cross country coach for I think 22, 23 years now. And in that time, out of all the times, Danny is now the 5th fastest time that we've ever had, and Alex is the 8th. And Danny set the sophomore record for the 3-mile time for this year. So I got Danny Benuelos and Alex Castro Gomez.
All right, next up we have our Round Lake Exchange Club Youth of the Month. Dr. Mendoza.
Okay, I have the privilege of introducing the Exchange Youth of the Month, Mary Cruz Gomez. Ms. Smith is her counselor and made these statements as part of the recommendation process. Choosing a student to be our first Youth of the Month was an easy one. Mary Cruz Gomez has truly been one of the most driven, energetic, and kind students I've ever had the pleasure of working with. She has excelled in the classroom, taking multiple honors level classes, and her teachers wish they had a classroom full of Marys. She is generous with her time, volunteering outside of school with Big Brother Big Sisters, as well as inside of school with clubs like Panther Ambassadors. She has kept a laser focus on her future and thinking about college since her freshman year. On the second day of school this year, she was already meeting with our college and career counselor to begin working on her college application and essays. Her desire to become a psychologist for young children will require at least a master's degree, but she has also begun researching what kind of doctorate degree she may want to pursue. Mary loves learning and sharing her knowledge and time with others. Round Lake was lucky to have her, and we all hope she comes back to visit and help inspire the next generation. I present to you Mary Cruz Gomez. So you have your speech, I'm guessing. Would you like me to hold this down for you, the mic? Is that okay?
Yes.
All right, I'll just stand here while you read your amazing speech.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Mary Cruz Gomez, and I discovered a new color this month. Something the average pair of human eyes can't do. Growing up, I loved to color, and within the walls of my daycare, I gravitated towards the Crayola pencils and mandala pages. I had a tendency to never finish my coloring pages. I would leave them everywhere unfinished. I hated coloring outside of the lines. One little mistake and I either gave up or erased it. As we all know, coloring pencils and erasers don't work well together. For as much as you try to erase, the marks are left outside of the lines. I realized that even as a kid, I expected everything to be perfect. Sophomore year of high school, I chose to take an art class where I could not hide behind the safety of coloring pages. It was the first time I was forced to embrace my mistakes. In reality, I was embracing the marks left outside of my coloring. As I searched for my place in the world, I realized that I would have to draw my own outlines outside of the societal norms for a Latina. Life would not be surface level and instead colorful. No matter if each color was a misstroke, I reflected on my childhood, knowing that those mistakes that shaped the fundamentals of my identity. In doing so, it led me to introspection into who I am. I am okay with color, new, boring, old, or bright. Those colors do not only represent how bad I was at coloring, but the many different opportunities I was given to become a stronger version of myself. The outlines of my life are blurred. Because I do not take on activities or volunteer work to prove something, engaging in community service through introduction to teaching by being a big and big brother, big sister, peer tutoring, and a summer volleyball camp allowed me to grow and connect with my goals for the future. It is hard for me to write about why I chose to be a leader in my community, because helping others is innate. From helping my peers write their college essays to tutoring them, I enjoy the ability to contribute to their journey. So when I had the chance to engage in TRIO and the Empower Youth program to become a better leader, I seized it. I support my family in a multitude of needs, from translation to assisting my mom with errands and taking my grandma to doctor's appointments. For I realize that involving myself in programs that give back is at its essence of who I am. I do not think of volunteering my time as a chore. I see it as essential as to why I thrive. Through each experience, I have grown in empathy, adaptability, and grit, which will propel me into my future. Knowing that I can choose my own path in the same way I can choose my own colors had led me to make a difference. I will show my community how to use their Crayola pencils to showcase their brilliance of colors the same way I have done. I no longer worry about whether or not I am coloring inside or outside of the lines. I embrace them. Thick or thin, I will work my way through any mandala lost, where losing myself in my own ideas and creative thoughts was once a disadvantage, now it is my strength. The new color I discovered was the missing piece to my puzzle. The color was within me all along, unlocked by the time I have taken to help others. My goal now is to become a child psychologist. By doing so, I hope to encourage my peers, one day my patients, to embody their own kaleidoscope of colors. Thank you. Yes.
All right, next up, we move to communications to the board, and first up on that list is the health and life safety inspection results. Dr. Lampe.
I'm not quite sure I'm going to follow that. It was very well done. So each year, we have an inspection of our buildings done by the Regional Office of Education. So we're going to go through those results. So the basic reason we have that inspection is that we want to make sure our schools are safe, are sanitary, and are fit for our students and our staff. These include all of our buildings, and it's required by law once a year. More frequent inspections could be demanded by the Regional Office of Education if necessary. So what drives the inspection is the codes for public schools. There's Title 23, Part 180 of the Illinois Administrative Code, Part 175, 185, relevant building official codes, international building codes, and international fire codes. When our inspector comes, they come with a iPad that actually lists all of those out there, and as they go from room to room, they're checking things off. So the rule application is now every new facility or structure must conform to Part 180 regulations. Existing buildings also go by their building code of when they were built. So not everything has to change, but anything that's new in the regulations, such as plumbing, we have a lot of different things with plumbing, those may be required to be done immediately. So the inspection locations, all of our school buildings have traditionally been inspected. What's new this year is they added all district buildings. So Valentine Warehouse, the Annex, the ESC were added. What also was added was what the inspector called the outbuildings. So anything that's on a school, grounds, but not the school itself, counted as an outbuilding. For our schools, every school in our district has a shed. Those were opened up and walked in. Ellison Village have garages. Those were opened up and walked in. And all the buildings, physical structures on our stadium complex at the high school were entered into, as well as under the bleachers. So our usual cadre of participants equals the inspector, Dr. Chrissy Sefcik, who is a new inspector this year. The fire marshal, I was there. Dr. King was there. Corey Fink was there. We also required the building principal and or assistant principal and the building lead custodian to be there. So what we did over the course of the years that I've been here is we've done a lot of pre-inspection participation. So we review the expectations with the operations department staff. An email was sent to all the principals and lead custodians outlining when the date and time was, and a list of things to go to, the look-fors around the building to prepare. We also did pre-walkthroughs. Mr. Fink and I walked through. We were also, there were portions of time where Dr. Kim was there, and we did a pre-inspection walkthrough. We also asked that the principal and lead custodian do 2 walkthroughs, one as early as a week before, one the day before, just to catch any minor things that might have been there. So all of that was done. Now, mind you, our inspection this year was a whole month early. It was in September. So there was not a lot of time to do the pre-inspection, which makes our results, I think, even better. So there were no violations at Indian Hill Elementary School, Village Elementary, John T. McGee, and Round Lake Middle School. This is the first time we've had both middle schools that had no violations. One violation was identified at these schools, and I put the picture up there. It is the plugs that go in the outlets. And there's 2 things here. The plugs are due in schools that are now kindergarten through 2nd grade. And for 5 or 6 years of our last inspector were never commented on. So the early childhood has plugs in all of their classrooms, except there was an outlet in one or two outlets in one classroom that didn't have the plugs in there. And I don't know if something was just recently removed out of it and didn't have a plug. I couldn't tell you, but these schools had 1 violation identified. I must say, outside of this violation, the principals and the leadership at those schools all did a phenomenal job at making sure everything else was addressed. We are now in the process of ordering all of those plugs for those K through 2 classrooms. Additional results, we did have 2 violations at the transition center. 3-foot clearance in front of electrical panel and evacuation map being hung. And then we had a number of violations at the high school. You can see the list there. Storage, extension cords, etc. So if you look over time, what we have accomplished since the 2021 school year to now, we have systematically decreased the number of violations that we have had over the course of time. We have not decreased from last year to this year. We had 4 schools with no violations. We had 4 schools this year, so that remained the same. We did overall get a decrease of 1 from 16 to 15. On the district data, this was new to us this year. We did not really know what to expect when they went out to the annex or the ESC or the Operations Service Center Valentine warehouse. But that notification came about 3 weeks before the inspector. The inspector didn't give us any real clarification. It was new to her as well. Examples of the violations that occurred in those buildings were to replace sprinkler hoods in the firebox. There are like backup sprinkler heads that we have to have on site. Add fire extinguishers to all the exits in the Valentine warehouse. Remove pallets that were close to 3 feet in front of a single exit door at Valentine. Chaining up cylinders at the shop area, moving gas cans into an appropriate storage container, even though they were the safety can, and then some 24-inch clearance from ceilings. So all of those violations on this page have been addressed already. So within 10 days, all school districts are required to take the field notice of violation report and submit electronically the timeline and how those would be corrected. Many of the deficiencies that we see and we've reported to you tonight have already been addressed, and some were addressed at the time we saw them on the day of the inspection. There were some new inspector wins though. Even though the safety plug was an unexpected one, Round Lake Middle School, you've heard me report to you in prior years that they wanted a classroom door swing changed. That door was surrounded by a block cylinder and windows. That whole enclosure would have had to come out at well over $10,000. Our new inspector approached the ROE architect and they studied that and found out that the correction would become a bigger violation where it swung out. So they took that one off the list. Also, usually we're trying to, rob Peter to pay Paul in terms of space, and we have stored wrestling mats under the stairwell at Round Lake Middle School. They have given us the clearance that is now suitable storage because it is sprinkled. So we are now allowed to do that, which is 2 big wins because space is a premium. So the conclusion is, engaging the principals in the process has been extremely beneficial. They've really taken ownership of their buildings. Conducting the pre-walkthroughs with the district and building staff have helped to catch a number of issues before the inspection date. The Early Childhood Center, Beach Elementary, Murphy schools take great pride in their buildings and were disappointed with receiving the 1 violation. Given that this violation is something overlooked by the previous inspectors, it's important to realize that they didn't have any other violations and they worked really hard for their buildings. And then although the high school has made great strides over the years, it is important to continuously inspect what we expect and implement additional walkthroughs prior to this walkthrough. And that's the overview.
Any questions from the board?
I just wanted to highlight, because this was on the finance committee. As Dr. Lampy noted, the inspector ones for Round Lake Middle School, that code correction is what we could call it. He's making sure we have that noted because we don't always get the same inspector every year. So if we get a new inspector and they catch us, we can show them that we did reach out to the Regional Office of Education and denote exactly what Dr. Lamping has here. So that is huge to make sure we keep that noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, I think we've got Ms. Metz with the kindergarten classroom redesign. Oh, and Dr. Simmons, sorry.
Good evening. First, I would like to thank you for this opportunity to speak to the school board as a representative of the kindergarten principal team. The Department of Teaching and Learning is excited to share an important and positive step forward in enhancing our kindergarten learning environments. The district will upgrade all kindergarten classrooms over Thanksgiving break by replacing desks with tables and flexible seating options. These enhancements will create collaborative, creative, and socially rich learning spaces. Through our ongoing partnership with the Illinois Kindergarten Individual Developmental Survey, KIDS, Professional Development and Coaching Program, our kindergarten teachers and administrators have been engaging in targeted training and focused on best practices in early childhood education. This work also supports the district's preparation for the state requirement of full-day kindergarten by the 2027-2028 school year and represents our continued efforts to build play-based, developmentally appropriate experiences for all students. We are grateful for the combined support of district funds and the Empower School Improvement Grant, which together make this initiative possible. There is no action requested by the board at this time, and we thank you for your continued support.
Any questions from the board?
No, I do have a question. Just looking at the item and quantity, your cost, does that leave any room for expansion? I know enrollment study shows a decline in enrollment, but do we have a buffer in here should we need more?
I was gonna say, I can jump in. At this time, we didn't purchase any extra tables. We really were just looking at what do we need exactly right now, and knowing that enrollment was going down, we did not purchase for any additional extra tables, but I mean, we would certainly consider that in the future, but based on enrollment, we didn't see a need to keep them in storage or have extras.
So with the tables you're purchasing, should we need them in a year or two? Are you able to get that same table where maybe that design is maybe not available? Because I'd hate that if we did need something, but then it doesn't match or is compatible to what you're having here.
Correct. No, we would definitely be able to. This is a vendor we work with regularly. He does the majority of all of our furniture supplying. So yes, we could certainly purchase more in the future if we needed to.
All right, thank you.
Hearing no additional conversation, thank you. And that will take us to the strategic plan monthly update as listed. Dr.
Yeah,
Mendoza?
no verbal updates this month. We tried something a little bit different. In addition to the monitoring dashboard, we provided updates, notable updates in the written memo form for your review. We still plan on coming back periodically just to highlight some verbal updates, but I don't have anything targeted for this board meeting.
Any questions from the board to Dr. Mendoza or the team? Hearing none, thank you on that, which will take us to review contracts less than 1,000. Had a couple on there, just yearbook agreements for the middle schools. Any questions from the board in regards to what is listed? Hearing none there, that will transition us directly into public comment. As always, members of the public may participate in public comment during regular board meetings by attending in person or by submitting an electronic public comment form. Please note that speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Electronic public comments are accepted up until noon on the day of the regular scheduled meeting, and the public commenter is contacted to confirm identity. Once confirmed, electronic public comment is provided to all board members in written form. A link to electronic public comment is online. We did have electronic public comment, which was distributed to the board today. And then now I would turn it over to public comment. And again, 3 minutes.
Tricia Snyder.
Good evening, my name is Tricia Schneider. I'm a district parent. This is actually in regards to public comments. It's a plea to actually read the electronic public comments at meetings for transparency, and because it is difficult to attend these meetings, but parents do watch and also staff watch the meetings. In fact, my 3-year-old thinks public comments should be blue. So this is just a plea to read the electronic comments out loud so that we know what's.
Thank you.
Lourdes Ruiz.
Hi, I've spoken here before, so I won't reintroduce myself. I'm Lourdes Ruiz. Similar to what I presented the previous board meeting, I am submitting a petition that we have going around the community with community members who have filled it out. Again, this is a petition for the current ICE policy that the school has in place to be changed to imitate the federal agent safety plan draft that the CPS protocol follows. Essentially, it's a way to protect our students and our community a lot more. So also essentially this new protocol would also follow the new law that was passed by Governor Pritzker on August 15th. Considering the current response policy that you guys have was passed in February, it would be out of date. Therefore, Section 4, Part B would have to change because that one is a section describing how the district would respond if ICE agents only have an administrative warrant or no warrants at all. That no longer would be legal under this new law. While that law does take effect in July, I'm just petitioning that we do it sooner and get it out of the way now so that we can protect our students better. Secondly, I did quickly want to summarize Dr. Mendoza, our conversation we had this morning for the community. Again, I did want to let the community know that there will be a reduction in positions for the following school year. So I do ask you to please come to these board meetings so that in the future you know how your kids are going to be impacted in the schools, whether there will be less clubs, whether class sizes will grow, things like that. This is essential to that as well. Additionally, Don Mendoza did note that his current cabinet administrators and administrator contracts were approved before the budget deficit was learned about. Therefore, that reduction in their pay salary did not occur for this year, but he promised and he also shared that he believes that equity is essential, and because you do have an equity vision statement, that those reductions will occur for next year and the year after. So as a community, we need to ensure that those salary reductions to their salary pay increases are going to happen just like they did for the staff for this year and next year, because that wouldn't be equitable now, would it? Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Did we have additional public comment? Hearing none. Thank you very much. And that will transition us to a superintendent's report and Dr. Mendoza.
Thank you, Board President Francisco and Board of Education. 11 of our future women engineers attended and connected with leaders, directors, owners, and partners of organizations in the construction industry at the Women in Construction Leadership Career Panel hosted by Grays Lake Central. Students prepared questions and engaged in meaningful conversations about career opportunities and essential skills for roles in construction management. Our students were inspired and empowered by women in leadership roles who encouraged them to pursue their dreams, work hard, and advocate for their goals and how to overcome systemic gender barriers. Earlier this month, Round Lake Middle School had the pleasure of hosting teachers and administrators from Mundelein District 75 for classroom observations in our science department. Visitors observed open science lessons in action where students were deeply engaged in scientific discourse and critical thinking. Following the classroom visits, our guests met with Round Lake Science Curriculum and instruction specialist teachers and department chairs to discuss our implementation and support process. The Munline team was highly complimentary of both the quality of instruction and the strong system of support in place for our teachers. It was a wonderful moment to showcase the hard work that goes into providing high quality instruction for our students. Round Lake High School design students collaborated with district stakeholders to create a sticker logo for K-Play, our kindergarten play-based learning initiative. K-Play helps our youngest learners build social, emotional, and academic skills through purposeful play. This partnership gives high school students an authentic design experience while celebrating the creativity and connection that make learning come alive across grade levels. Round Lake District 116 also had the opportunity to welcome tandem teachers Liz Howard and Shara Simpson for a professional learning day focused on the 3 pillars of dual language education, which are high academic achievement, bilingualism and biliteracy, and sociocultural competence. Drawing on their shared experience as tandem teachers, the authors presented research-based strategies and tools to help educators coordinate instruction across languages effectively, efficiently, and equitably. It was a day of exploration in the roots and soil that form the foundation of a strong multilingual education program. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Mendoza. Any questions for Dr. Mendoza on the superintendent's report? Hearing none, we will transition to committee reports and the Finance Committee update.
Thank you. Yes, the finance met earlier. We had a rather short agenda. You already heard Dr. Lampy in regards to the life safety. Again, I just really wanted to note over the years doing those pre-walkthroughs has really helped with those inspections. So of course we want to see those continue. Only 2 other items on the agenda is which will be later on our board agenda here, is the bid award for consideration for the rooftop for both for Murphy and then boilers for Round Lake Middle. Again, we have temporary heat at Murphy, so again we need to get those considered. So you'll hear in greater detail later on the agenda. The only other item we had was Solution Tree Professional Development Services. Ms. Damp, who is always looking for professional development for our teachers. This is a PLC, a professional learning community reset for all our secondary teachers. This will be paid out of a grant in the amount of $7,100. We really just went over the contract with Ms. Damp, making sure that the contract meets the district's terms and conditions for payment. And that's all we had for finance this time.
Thank you, Ms. McGregor. Any questions for the Finance Committee? Hearing none, we will now move to approval of open meeting minutes.
I need a motion to approve the November 3rd, 2025 regular board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Abstain.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco.
Yes. And motion carries.
Need a motion to approve the November 11th, 2025 special board meeting expulsion hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Ms. Larson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Abstain.
Mr. Francisco,
Abstain.
Mrs. Larson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the consent agenda for the following items. The accounts payable report for $1,496,939.43. The previous motions report for $465,528.17. September 30th, 2025 Treasurer's Report. September 30th, 2025 Investment Report. October 25 P Card Report. And the November 17th, 2025 Employment Report.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Ms. Lee. I just want to make a comment. Definitely thank you. The more detailed treasurer's reports and investment reports are outstanding. So thank you for that.
And she's actually going to be speaking to that before the vote happens. It's more of the quarterly budget health treasurer's report, so we'll defer to Ms. Amesole right now.
Well, first, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to present our quarter end for September 30th and our treasurer's report. So what we've done is I've taken the snapshots from the treasurer's report and put them into a PowerPoint so that we can highlight some of those footnotes that we've been discussing, at least at the finance level and at budget officer meetings. So first and foremost, to get a footnote in the treasurer's report, generally the variance between last year's activity and this year's activity needs to be 5% or greater. So if it's 5% or greater, it's automatically getting a footnote. However, there have been a few things that even though they're less than 5%, we are footnoting anyway. And the first of those would be the very first one, the tax levy. That's footnoted mainly because it's 27% of our overall revenue. And I wanted to identify the fact that we are in variance of about 4% from prior year. So if we look at last year, as of this time of the year, we had received 42% of what we ended up receiving in total. This year we're at 38%. So again, we have about a 4% variance, but this is highly dependent on when people actually pay their tax bills, which are paid between June and September. However, we actually receive payments all the way through December. So we're not going to know how this is going to end the year until we actually see those December actuals come in, and that will actually be the first half of our levy, not the second half of our levy. So at that time, we'll have some more information for you, but right now we seem to be trending on target, nothing that's giving us any point of concern. If we look at footnote number 2, which is our food service revenue, you'll see that we're last year, as of this time, we had received 1% of our overall revenue. At this time this year, we're at 6%. There's a 5% variance there. In researching that, it was actually realized that we are receiving some of our payments from the state in a quicker fashion this year. So that does not necessarily mean that we're going to end the year above a surplus or with a surplus, but in fact, it's a timing difference. If we take a look at the next line, which is footnote 3, other local and flow-through revenue, we are trending about 16% higher than we were last year. It's important to note what a small overall revenue generating item this is, which is about $365,000. But it's important to note that we are already aware that we have received $20,000 above and beyond what we've budgeted in one account number alone. So that lends itself to that we may end the year with a small surplus in this area. The next item that we footnoted is our state EBF categoricals and grant revenue. It's footnoted not because we have a percent variance. In fact, there's only a 1% variance between last year and this year. But it is footnoted because I wanted to note that we are receiving our funds in a different fashion than we have in the past, mainly because some of that evidence-based funding was actually delineated to go to our debt service fund, which we're going to see that on an upcoming slide. And just because of the fact that it went from an a non-operating to an operating fund, that's going to change the percents received from year to year. But again, we're only operating about a 1% variance there. We're not anticipating a large variance from our overall budget. If we take a look at the title grants, that's our next footnote. We're coming in about 17% higher than we have in the past. But it's important to note that as it relates to anything that says grant, grants are only received if the money is spent. So if we were receiving 17% higher revenue at this time of the year, then we've also spent it faster down below. So that's just important to note. It's also important to note that this does not, even if we were to go 125%, it has to have offsetting expenditures. So at the end of the day, it doesn't affect your fund balance or your cash reserves. It is an in and an out when it's a grant. But we are receiving and claiming our funds a little bit faster than we have in the past. So that's our operating revenues. If we go to the next slide, which is our operating expenditures, first and foremost, even though it's not noted in our footnotes, I would like for you to just to take a look at the salaries and benefits. It's important to note how cyclical school districts are. And so when we're looking at this, we're seeing that the administrator salaries were 24% last year. They're 24% this year. Our certified staff salaries were at 8% last year. We're at 8% this year, and so forth and so on. So that really, this kind of analysis really goes a long way in telling us the legitimacy of the budget that we've prepared. If we were to see some major variances here, that would, lend itself to further digging. So if we take a look at footnote number 6, footnote number 6 is one of those where last year we had spent 13%. This year we haven't spent anything yet. Again, this is $143,000 of the district's overall $179 million budget. But when we looked at that, it looks like it's a timing difference and that it's not necessarily going to mean that we're going to come in under budget. If we look at the next line, which is our food service revenue, we're trending about 5% different. But again, when we researched this, our food service invoices came in just a little bit quicker. And we're really trying to do a good job with our budget officers about trying to get our invoices in the month in which they belong. And so that's also going to create a little bit of timing differences from month to month. The next item that's footnoted is our supplies and materials. This is a great footnote that we're seeing. What we're seeing is the diligence of our budget officers in terms of only spending and buying absolutely what we need. So we can see that as of this time of the year, we've spent 29% of what we've overall budgeted, whereas last year we had already spent 42%. So that means we're trending to the good 13%. The next line down, very similar. Last year, in terms of our capital outlay and equipment, we had spent 23% as of this time of the year. This year, we've only spent 7%. So we're trending 15% to the good in that area. Again, this goes to that budget officers are really working very hard to ask themselves, is this a need or is this a want? If we take a look at the next footnote, which is footnote number 10, our special education and contracted services, you can see that we're trending slightly higher, about 9%. When I researched this, it looks like CDOL has actually invoiced us a little quicker this year than they did last year. So at this point, we're not necessarily trending that this is going to end with a budget variance. However, we are holding budget officer meetings, and I will be having a budget officer meeting here upcoming this week with our head of special education just to verify and to go through those outplaced students. That information, should it vary from what you're currently seeing, will be footnoted, and it will be highlighted not only in the footnotes, but at the next quarterly meeting. Our other objects are again trending below what we've spent in the past. We spent 53% of our overall budget last year, whereas as of this time of the year, we've only spent 39%. So again, when we're looking at our operating revenues, they're coming in right on time. Our operating expenditures are being spent well within the same cyclical nature as we have in the past. So next, if we take a look at our debt service revenues, really and truly, other than the property tax levy, which is again going to have some timing differences, we're seeing about a 16% difference. Why a 16% difference? Well, if you look at FY25 activity, you're going to see a much smaller levy revenue line item. You'll see that it's 4.4 million in FY25 versus 6.5 million in FY26. Some of that is because we actually received the property tax relief grant last year. So if you look down further in FY25, you'll see that the district received $4.2 million from the state to actually help our taxpayers with the debt service portion of our bill. Well, that grant is no longer available to us in FY26. So now we are going to see a difference in the receipt of revenues just because of that change between state and local. So that is nothing that we are not already aware of, and is not indicative of a change in terms of how we think the budget's going to end the year. If we look at our earnings on investments, we're doing really well this year. So far, we have actually received 56% of what we had budgeted, whereas this time last year we were at 10%. That does indicate to me we will probably end the year with a surplus in this area. But again, we're only talking a $70,000 budget as a whole for the debt service funds. So that's our debt service revenue. If we take a look at our debt service expenditures, we're operating right in line with where we would anticipate to be. Nothing to footnote and nothing to really highlight in this area. So next, we're taking a look at our capital projects and life safety revenue. And when we're taking a look at that revenue, we have highlighted the property tax levy. So whereas we have received less than what we would have anticipated in all the other funds, if we're looking at the life safety levy, because we are lowering our levy in the life safety area and we're funneling that money into the education fund, what you're going to see is most of the money we receive is going to be during this first half of the year. So that's why we've received 75% of what we would anticipate we're going to receive this year, because we're only going to be levying about $5,000 in the second half of the fiscal year. Whereas you can see we've received about $50,000 so far this year. So that is going to make your percentages be off, but it doesn't mean that we're going to end the year with a material difference in the overall budget. If you also take a look at our earnings on investments, we're trending a little bit different there in terms of last year we had received 36% of what we would totally receive, and this year we're at 22%. So that's a 14% variance. Some of that is due to the fact that we have spent some of our capital projects money, but this will continue to be monitored as the months progress. Hopefully we will see that increase, and for us to meet that $38,000 interest income goal. If we take a look at our capital projects and life safety expenditures, we have a small variance in purchase services. Again, as it relates to capital projects and life safety projects, these are going to happen really dependent on when we can actually time the projects. So anything that's not being spent now or hasn't been spent now will likely be spent in the coming months as we enter the summer months in that June time period, July and August of next year. But right now, at this point, nothing is giving us pause to think that we're going to end the year with a material difference as it relates to our capital projects and life safety expenditures. And that's a summary of your treasurer's report for September 2025.
I do want to highlight one additional thing. This very same budget health report was facilitated with the teachers union last week. If you remember when we did the public presentations, one of the strategies for transparency is we said that 4 times a year we would meet with our teachers, our teacher leadership team, to go through line by line the financial position of the district, so that questions could be asked. We did that last week and it went very, very well. So I just wanted the board to realize that we did what we said we were going to do. That will continue to happen.
Hearing no additional conversation, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to old business and our second semester overnight middle school field trips. And Dr. Stefan.
Hello, I'm here on behalf of Mr. Randolph and Miss Howard in regards to the Washington, D.C. field trip for the middle schools coming up this spring in March. Just looking for the board's approval to approve this field trip. I know there were questions that had come up in regards to previous numbers regarding Washington, D.C., and we did share those in a weekly, but we have seen a decline. We were looking at around 20 students, but it isn't significant. The most we had was back in 2018 with 31 students, but every year since then we've been at like 31, 20, 25, 28. It's kind of gone up and down between that low 30s and 20.
When will the parents be notified that, so they can either start saving or know how to budget this?
I imagine very soon. Dr. King and I were just talking today. The approval process for their fundraiser has just gone through the two of us to get signature, so we're working through that. But I'm sure they'll be in contact with families this coming week, since we just got the fundraising request and things to get rolling. So they were waiting for approval, but I know they'll get on it right away.
Because March, this is spring break, or around spring break, is pretty quick.
Yes, for sure. They'll definitely be getting on it very soon.
Okay.
I would just ask a quick question. I know that you were talking like maybe 8, 9 students difference over the time, but that's like a 30% variance. Do we have a feel as to why that decrease is happening? Is it cost? Is it access? What are we looking at, and how can we try and help alleviate that so that we can expand the opportunity for our students?
Yeah, I can't speak to the exact answer as to why that's happening. I could certainly go back to Mr. Randolph and Miss Howard to see kind of what they're seeing in the trends and talk with the teachers that have been doing a lot of the recruiting. It could also have to do with just if there's new teachers, new staff that are involved in the process, making sure that they're feeling confident as they transition the role over to other staff members. But I can for sure reach out to them and then report back to the board.
I'm wondering also if we could figure out a way creatively to talk to the kids, potentially.
Well, I also wonder if we could maybe bring this to families sooner, because, we're in November, and then we're asking them to pay $1,500 in March. That's a really quick turnaround for that amount of money. It almost seems advantageous, and maybe it would be better for families to budget and to really, because it's also holidays. So then you're asking for, again, $1,500. Can we do this earlier in the year?
Or even the prior year. Like if we're talking about when it's going off now, when one that goes off in March, that's when we should be talking to the 7th grade students about it for the following year, so the families can start that and have a year-long process.
Almost like the fine arts do it. They plan the year in advance.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say is when we're talking about field trips that go out of state that are pretty significant cost to students, I think it's different when we look at like color guard, sometimes those trips to Michigan, but those are things that we support as a school. But in this particular case, the heavy lift of it is on the family and there's fundraising. But to your point, fundraising for a couple months is much different than an entire year. So that is certainly something that we could do is anytime we're doing this Washington, D.C. trip, we could even do if the board's recommendation would be this spring and then they have a full year to plan for the next school year. Do we talk to 7th graders this year in the spring? Maybe even if it's like the week after the 8th graders come back, right? So they can talk to the kids that had the experience and see if that could help. But we could for sure do that.
Because what are we talking about for fundraisers?
Yeah, I believe it's a popcorn fundraiser, so it's not something that's going to bring
It's a lot of popcorn
It's,
they have to sell
definitely
to even cover half
Most
that
definitely.
cost.
And just to reiterate what Ms. McGinley said, as a parent who did have to come up with that $1,500 from November to March, something to also consider is it might not be this year, but next year, families have more than one student in a school. For instance, I had an 8th grader that was going to Washington and a freshman who wanted to go to Disney with band. And there wasn't a lot of time to fundraise, so it would be really helpful to our parents.
Yeah, no problem. We can bring back next year's trip this spring to give more time for sure.
I also just want to ask about, I know I ask every time, but vetting the chaperones.
Yes, 100%. The chaperones always have all the clearance done that we are required to do.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
All right, hearing no additional conversation.
I need a motion to approve the proposed 2025-2026 second semester overnight trip, 8th grade Washington, D.C. trip for Round Lake Middle School and John T. McGee Middle School.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Hearing no additional conversation, roll call please.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Mr. Devera?
Yep.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will bring us to our new business for this evening. And first up on that is Mr. Peterson with the Round Lake High School overnight trip.
All right, good evening, everybody. Tonight, I want to bring for your consideration a proposal for a culmination event for our senior class, and this would be the Six Flags Grad Bash. This is a lock-in style event, closed to the general public, where the students would have to be there. The chaperone can only leave with the chaperone. Included in this overnight field trip would be all food, ticket admission, all beverages for the duration of the evening. Two schools within our conference, they currently do this, Grays Lake North and Lakes. They reported a highly positive experience, and then the students, the senior class, truly looks forward to this event. In order to gauge the student interest in this event, we did survey our senior class, had 136 seniors respond, and for that, out of that survey, 87% responded that they would attend this event, 11 responded that they would be maybe interested in attending, and only 2% said that they would not be interested in attending the event. In the past, we did have senior culmination events. One was we had a Dave and Buster's trip that the students engaged in, kind of lost some interest in that, but this is an opportunity to once again bring some school pride back and celebrate our senior class. Within this proposal, I did put a kind of a general overview of a timeline for this. Starting in October, we conducted the survey. Tonight, I'm here to present to you. And then we look at everything from when communication would go out to students, staff, parents, and then different fundraising opportunities. Fundraising for this, we would look at like more local control over the fundraising and look at some partnering with some restaurants and some of the promotions that they do where they give back a portion of sales for that evening to come back to our students. And we did not want to do anything that would interfere with any of the current fundraising that is going on, whether it's chocolate sales, popcorn sales, those types of fundraising. There is an overview of the event, so just so you're aware, it would be May 9th. Students would arrive at the high school at 8 p.m. They would go to Six Flags. They would leave Six Flags approximately 3 a.m. So, sorry to all the parents out there, but they would get back to the school at 3:45 and then be dismissed from there. Kind of similar to something that we already do for prom. Sorry to the parents sitting here tonight, but it's something that I think would be really beneficial and exciting for our kids. In regards to supervision for this event, Diana Balkema, who is our activities facilitator at the high school, she would be leading this and be one of the supervisors. And all chaperones for this, it would be on a volunteer basis. And we have some staff who would be interested in doing that. If there were any type of a chaperone who was not a Round Lake school district employee, we would run them through the similar background checks that we would do for any of our chaperones or volunteers. Outlined in this is a cost. Right now, the cost is projected at being $81.37. That cost is for everything that's included in the ticket, the food, and beverage. We did inquire if season passes are allowed for that, because some of our students do have season passes, but for this particular event, that's not an option for this. And then additionally, there's an $8 t-shirt for our seniors that if they chose to do that, that would be added to the cost. So if there's any questions from the board, I would be willing to take those at this time.
I do have a couple questions. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this right. Would this be would we be with like Grays Lake North? Would we be combined with those other schools in LCC?
I'm not exactly sure what schools would be attending on that date, but there would be other schools in attendance on that evening.
Okay. So what would be the max that we could take? Let's say every senior was interested, because you have a pretty high rate of students who are interested. Because we would be attending with other students, does Six Flags give you a max amount of students you can bring?
I haven't discussed that in particular. Didn't receive any response that they would limit the number, but I can get you a definitive answer on that.
I think we'd want to know, because if you get more requests than you can honor, that wouldn't be good.
Absolutely fair question. I'll when I return with that, I'll bring that information to you.
Okay. And then I know you have the estimated cost, and you said it's the ticket, food, but does that include transportation, or how are the students getting there?
They would get there through district transportation.
Okay. All right. That's all that I just want to make sure, who we're attending with, because I think it's important to know if we're attending with other schools. Because again, just thinking of the safety for our students, we want to make sure if we're just attending with don't mean to pick on Gray's Lake, but if we're just using Gray's Lake, are they following the same guidelines we are?
In regards to guidelines, what do you mean by that?
Chaperones, making sure chaperones are vetted.
Understood.
Any additional conversation? Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
All right, next up will be go to independent contractor milestones and Dr. Schuth.
Good evening. As part of our contracts that we approved over the summer, just requesting an approval of this contractor specifically as one of our speech and language pathologists that will be half-time Murphy, half-time Ellis, and so that we can get services continued for our students in our special education programs.
Right, need a motion to approve the independent contractor for milestones.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. Hearing no additional conversation, roll call please.
Mr. De Vera?
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yeah.
Mrs. Larson?
Abstain.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Miss Lee? Yes. Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. That will bring us to our 2026-2027 school calendar, and Mrs. Bennett.
So it's this time each year that we come to the board requesting approval of the next year's school calendar. And as a reminder, we work closely with the Education Association of Round Lake in the development of that. I think that what you'll find today is the proposal that we've brought forward is responsive to a lot of feedback that we've heard from parents for some time, both generally speaking and then most recently through the stakeholder advisory group meeting that we had in October. So just to highlight some of the changes that we've incorporated into the memo here. We are looking to move back to one unified calendar. I know for the last at least couple of years we've had different calendars for different levels. So for example, pre-K and secondary students have one calendar this year. Our K-5 students have a different one due to the number of professional development days, e-learning days that we have incorporated. So we're looking to bring that back to one. We have, as part of the calendar in Illinois, we are allowed to have 4 Teacher Institute days, and we will start the year as we normally do with 3 right at the start, so we can get all of our training in right before the start of school. That's required to start the school year. And then hold our 4th one in October, Friday, October 9th, which would be used as a health and wellness day for our staff. We would be looking to have our first student attendance day on Thursday, August 13th. And as I just referenced, the number of professional development / e-learning days that we have, we would be looking to bring that down. So right now at the K-5 level, we have 9 and 5 for secondary, and we would be trimming that down as you see here in the calendar. And then we'd be moving those days from Fridays to Wednesdays. What we heard a lot in our stakeholder advisory group meeting was the interest in incorporating another parent-teacher conference day in the spring. So we are proposing that we have our normal scheduled parent-teacher conferences in October, which is 2 full days, and then 1 day in the spring. Our breaks, so our significant breaks are Thanksgiving or fall, winter and spring breaks. Those are in alignment with the Lake County Tech Campus calendar, which we always try to do that each year. And this coming year, Good Friday, which is usually a day of non-attendance, that falls over spring break. For transportation planning, we've been working out this year, just over the last couple of weeks here actually, to ensure that we're able to provide transportation for those students attending the Tech Campus in Lake County on days that we are not in session here for e-learning days or perhaps parent-teacher conferences, so that those students are not missing out on any instruction at the Tech Campus. So working through the details of that now. The last day of student attendance, pending the use of any emergency days, would be Friday, May 21st. which would be a half day for students. We're still working out the actual hours of instruction that day, but that will be coming forward as we talk about school hours for next year at a later date. And then we would be looking to host the Round Lake High School graduation ceremony on Friday, the 21st, which is the last day for students. And then the middle school recognitions the following day, the Saturday, May 22nd. So any questions that you have at this time?
Hearing none. Thank you on that. Think we had action on this one?
No, that's at the next meeting.
Approve on the December 8th. Thank you. All right, so that will take us now to the rooftop unit replacement at Murphy and back to Dr. Lamprey.
Yes, we have a rooftop number 2 at Murphy Elementary School that has failed, is in need of complete replacement. We have secured the work of CS2 Design Group, the engineers, who have done all of the studies and developed all of the bid specs for this project. The rooftop unit provides heat to approximately 8 classrooms and a hallway stairwell. The classrooms are the first floor and second floor parallel to Greenwood and exiting out to the north parking lot. We have put in this bid for the replacement of the RTU, but an alternate would also include the diffusers. Right now, we are heating that area with temporary unit that has been lifted onto the actual building itself. We also incorporated in this proposal a boiler at Round Lake Middle School. Round Lake Middle School has 2 boilers for redundancy purpose. When one boiler goes down, the other one usually kicks in. Both boilers are the same age. One boiler has failed completely. The other is on its last leg. So in this bid, we put an alternate for that as well to replace the second boiler at the same time while they're doing all the piping and all the mechanical work. So what you are seeing in this bid proposal is we had 6 companies, vendors that actually submitted bids. The highest came in at $821,000 for just the base bid, $800. The lowest responsive and responsible bidder was at $618,600. When you add both the alternates, which the administration is requesting your support on, the total base bid, $716,500. That would be for the replacement of both boilers at Round Lake Middle School and for the RTU and diffusers at Murphy Elementary School. The work for this project, because of the timing of getting the actual rooftop unit, which we are going with a multi-zone similar to RLAS, which is cheaper to do that and still recommended by the engineers. We cannot guarantee that work would be able to be done in a 5-day spring break type period without some overlap in which we might be without heat. So both of these projects would be done right after school is out. The funding for these proposals would come from emergency use of the Health Life Safety Funds, as well as some remaining district funds.
Clarify the timeline of when we're looking at doing that. So we're saying that the replacements will not happen until the summer of next year.
2026.
No, let's follow up on that. So right now, the system is, what's the system we're using, and do we anticipate it will last through the?
Yes, we're using temporary heat at Murphy, and we're using the second boiler, which has been doing fine, but it is not going to last into perpetuity. So it's not going to last like many more years. So it's more cost efficient to replace them both at this time when you're redoing all of the piping system.
And if I remember, it's not great, but didn't we run on one boiler at the EEC for a while? like before we did their rebuild. I know one of them went down.
Yes, I believe that. We've also run with one out of a pair of boilers at the high school for a period of time as well.
But is there no way to, I understand not doing it while school's in, but during the Christmas break and,
They just do not feel, number one, for the RTU unit at Murphy, it has to be built. It's custom built based to their size, so that won't be done by winter break. But they just, to take the chance, given the companies are off on Christmas Day, New Year's Day. It does not lead to a lot of time, and doing weekend work or after night work is premium time. They can't guarantee it, and to go into January, it just is a big chance with the boiler at the Round Lake Middle School.
And also at Murphy, remember that's a rooftop handler. They have to bring in a crane. They're gonna have to block off the building. So again, it's going to, limit the access that people will have to the building because they have to bring in a crane.
We asked, but it was the recommendation of the engineering firm. There is one thing I just wanted to mention, that in both of these, there is an allowance of $25,000 general allowance and $20,000 structural allowance. The engineers believe that we will get a majority of if not all of the general allowance back. They are a little hesitant on the structural allowance, and that's primarily at Murphy because of the roof and the weight of the new multi-zone. So when I asked, they're being more cautious about that one, but they believe we'll get the general one back. And MG Mechanical is the one that did the Ellis, and we received almost all of that allowance back.
Do we have a contingency plan if something happens? I mean, winter is coming.
Contingency would be to bring in temporary units. That's what we would have to do.
It isn't possible to do like e-learning for only those areas, is it? I don't know if that's allowed even, but.
It is. I mean, we have a seat time waiver. We could do that, but we have flexibility in the case of an emergency, but like I said, Dr. Lamping, we would have to bring in temporary heating, which is the same situation we had at the EEC. We do believe that the second boiler at Round Lake Middle is fixable. It's not gonna last forever. So this is basically a cost value proposition. Because they're there, we might as well do both. The one is out of commission, the other one is gonna follow behind, so.
So even if we decided to try to do the project, because the rooftop unit's gonna get built anyway, what would be I'm even wondering, even if we wanted to finish it, rush it and get it done by the end of winter, it may not even happen.
The RTU unit probably, it's gonna take at least probably 15 weeks to get built. So no, it wouldn't. The boiler could possibly get done a lot faster because boilers are pretty standard. But again, it's the chance that you're shutting it down and you can't get it back up in a timely fashion.
any additional conversation?
Need a motion to approve the bid award to MG Mechanical Contracting, Inc. in the amount of $716,500 for the replacement of a rooftop unit at Murphy Elementary School and boilers at Round Lake Middle School.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yeah.
Mr. De Vera.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
And now back to the aggregate tax levy.
Thank you again for giving me the opportunity tonight to hold our truth and taxation hearing. Having conducted the hearing and having provided the board the estimated property tax levy at the October 20th board meeting, we have met all of the requirements in order to adopt the levy. And administration is requesting that the Board of Education approve the 2025 aggregate tax levy as presented and all of the associated resolutions.
Yeah, I've got a question. So, on one of the slides, it talks about the overview of the levy. All right, because there was a question that we were asked. The gentleman asked the question, and I thought it was, I'm like, that's really fair. And the question was about if I knew that the percentage of the levy was going to go towards the teachers, I'd be more in favor of the thing. And there was a lot presented here today, and even afterwards, I'm thinking, but actually, it is. Because if you actually look at the 2025, the top line is educational and then take special education. That's 81% of the levy is actually for education and special for directly. And then outside of that, it's operations and maintenance, making sure our boilers are working, and then transportation, making sure our kids are getting to school. So yes, versus it was 51% of education and special education in this year's levy. So, yeah, I just wanted to point that it's not necessarily a question. I'm just confirming what I saw.
Correct. So if you're looking at what we anticipate for the 2025 levy, we're anticipating about $23.5 million coming in, just that is only allowed to be spent in the education fund. More than the teachers are paid from the education fund. But if you look at our teachers' salaries as a whole, just from our budget from this year, our teachers as a whole would be earning about $54.7 million. So you can tell, or you can see, that our levy doesn't even come close to covering just the teacher's portion of the salaries. And this is highlighting strictly our salaries for the teachers. It's not highlighting the benefits. The benefits for everyone is kind of commingled in the treasurer's report. So yes, you are correct in that if you were to look at this, we would be levying $23.5 million, and our teachers' salaries alone are $54.7 million.
So then in a follow-up to Mr. Jewett's statement, the total extension is at 39, but our teacher salaries alone are 50, which means that basically everything, you could argue that everything from the levy, it doesn't even pay everything for our teachers.
Correct. And this is our second largest source of revenue. Our largest source, which is what does most of the funding for the district, is evidence-based funding.
Hearing no additional conversation?
No, and again, I was just gonna add, this was obviously, at the last finance meeting. And again, this is the district's way to ask the county for those tax dollars, as you both mentioned, to pay operations for the district. Now there's separate motions, so I'm gonna read them all individually. So just forewarning you, Yanira. All right, I need a motion to adopt the resolution to adopt the tax levy and file the certificate of tax levy for the tax levy year 2025.
So,
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
yeah.
Mr. Tavera?
Yep.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to adopt the Truth in Taxation Certificate of Compliance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yeah.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion for the resolution to levy certain special taxes for educational purposes for the tax levy year 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yeah.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion for the resolution to levy certain special taxes for operations, building, and maintenance purposes for the levy year 2025.
So,
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mr. Tavera. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yeah.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion for approval to levy certain special taxes for transportation purposes for the levy year 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Motion carries.
Need a motion for approval for the resolution to levy certain special taxes for working cash for the levy year 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Ms. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion for approval for the resolution to levy certain special taxes for municipal retirement purposes for the tax levy year 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion for approval for to levy certain special taxes for Social Security purposes for the levy year 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Ms. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion for approval for to levy certain special taxes for tort immunity purposes for the levy year 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Ms. Klingler. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jewett,
Yeah.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Tavera,
Yep.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion for the resolution to levy certain special taxes for special education purposes for the tax levy year 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion for approval for the resolution to levy certain special taxes for the Special Education District IMRF purposes for the levy year 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Ms. Larson. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Miss Lee.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion for approval for this, to adopt the certificate of tax levy for the levy year 2025.
So
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley.
Yes.
Motion carries. Is that the last one? Okay. We're all hanging on your last word there. All right, and that will now take us to positive occurrences.
Okay, I have one. So I'm just delighted to say that Winter Guard has started again, and I just love our kids, and I love that our community supports things like that, our arts, our music, our supports, our parents just come out, and I love it, and I think it's amazing. So I just wanted to highlight it.
Well, in that vein, I'll also throw out I was able to attend Friday night's showing of Airness, and it was absolutely amazing. Again, the amazing things that our kids are able to put together. Also, the amazing work we did at the theater and the updates in the theater are not to be missed. So definitely. When you get a chance to see it, and you'll have it coming up with Winter Spectacular here very soon. It's absolutely amazing.
So, and I believe our chess team, did they take conference for an LCC? So congratulations to them. So I hope we see them recognize them at a board meeting.
Also, I mentioned this, but it'll be a future board meeting, but Brian Peterson was recognized as the Lake County Region High School Principal of the Year. Very, very happy. Nobody works harder. Very happy for him, the community, the school. So just wanted to call that out.
So I've got one. It's a little bit different. So this weekend attended at Lake Forest College. It was a final recital. Yes. Yeah, for Joanna Wynn. She's a student here and is on staff, and it was fantastic. She did a great job, but she was attributing why she was there and able to be there. It was because of 3 of the teachers and the leaders in the music department, and they were there supporting her as well. So it was a great event, so much fun. I felt honored to be a part of it. Yeah, she had a great show. Oh, that's right. Yeah, she had a great show.
Any additional positive occurrence? All right. Future agenda items. Hearing none there, we will then move on to approval of closed session meetings closed session minutes reviewed at prior meeting.
Need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of October 20th, 2025 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler.
Yes.
Motion carries. And that will take us to, I need a motion to convene in closed session as permitted by statute 5 ILCS 120/2 for the purpose of discussing the following. Closed meeting minutes, 5 ILCS 120/2C21. Employment matters, 5 ILCS 120/2C1. Litigation, 5 ILCS 120/2C11. And student matters, 5 ILCS 120/2C9.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mrs. Negretti McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yeah.
Mr. Tavera,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler.
Yes.
Motion carries, and that will convene our open session for the evening. We do not have any additional open session activities. So thank you very much, everyone. We look forward to seeing you here in 2 weeks for our next meeting. And everyone online, have a great evening. Have an amazing evening.